Welcome to StrongHER Voices, the podcast for women navigating perimenopause, menopause, and midlife with strength, confidence, and community. I'm your host, Ashley Basilio. I'm a certified menopause health coach and fitness professional who believes this isn't a pause in your life, it's power. Each week, we'll talk honestly about the changes we go through and share trusted strategies for feeling your absolute best. Let's dive in. Hi, friends, and welcome to StrongHER Voices. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is a really special one for me because it takes me back to where this whole podcast journey began. I had the pleasure of being a guest on Beyond Empty Nest with Jodi Silverman, which was actually the very first podcast I was ever invited to be on. And honestly, that experience inspired me to start StrongHER Voices. Jodi is such a bright light. She's a happiness coach, speaker, and she's the host of Beyond Empty Nest podcast, where she encourages women, especially empty nest moms, to live fully, be brave, and find joy in every stage of life. So we met through a mutual friend, and I'm so grateful our paths crossed. Now, in this conversation, we dig into what's really going on during menopause, the physical, emotional, and hormonal changes that so many women experience but rarely talk about openly, although things are getting better. Now, this is part one of our two-part series. I can't wait for you to hear it. Be sure to check out Jodi and all the incredible work she's doing at jodisilverman.com, and I'll include her links in the show notes too. Stay tuned because Jodi is going to be joining me here on StrongHER Voices in a future episode, so you'll get to hear more from her soon. All right, let's dive in. Now, here's part one of the Empowered Menopause. What's really happening?
Hey, everyone. Have you ever found yourself wondering, what is going on with me? Like your body feels off, your sleep is wonky, moods are unpredictable, and no one around you seems to have the answers? If you're nodding your head right now, you're not crazy and you're not broken. You, my friend, might be somewhere on the menopause spectrum, and no one ever told you what to expect. I'm Jodi Silverman, empowerment coach and navigating post-menopause like some of you. And today we're pulling back the curtain on the messy, confusing, and wildly misunderstood world of perimenopause and menopause. I have brought in the brilliant Ashley Basilio, a certified personal trainer and menopause health coach, to help us decode what's really happening in your body. Ashley went from engineer to wellness expert after walking through her own midlife transformation. And now she helps women like you, like me, build strength, reclaim energy, and navigate menopause with confidence. This is part one. And in this part one, we're getting real about why menopause isn't just hot flashes, the surprising symptoms no one talks about, and why your identity might feel like it's unraveling, even though something powerful is actually unfolding. So if you're feeling off but didn't know where to start, this is your starting line. And hey, when you're done listening, don't forget to check out the Happy and Midlife quiz in the show notes. It's a fun, free way to discover where you are in midlife joy journey and get tailored support from me on how to increase your happiness. You're not alone in this, so let's get into it. Ashley, we are so happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jodi. I'm really grateful and happy to be here.
Yeah, this is an important conversation and one that
Definitely.
I think it's happening more and more, but we need to amplify it even more and more. We need to demystify and uncover like what is, like what I said in the beginning, like what is going on with me. So thank you for saying yes.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So before we dive in to what's really happening with us, share a little bit about how you came to be doing this work and choose menopause as your focus.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, if you had asked me years ago, I never thought I'd end up here. So I
Yeah.
actually built a career in engineering, mostly in manufacturing and product development. And I used to do fitness a little bit as a side gig. I've always loved to move and dance. And so after I graduated college and got married and moved, I joined a local aerobics class and I quickly ended up taking it over and teaching for several years for this local business. But eventually I wanted to be able to do things on my own and add my own styles. So in 2012, I launched my business, Get Fit with Ashley. And at the time I was working part-time in engineering. I started teaching one group class a week and I had only one personal training client. And that went on for a few years. And then I actually had to put the whole thing on hold and I didn't know if it would ever come back. But in 2021, during the pandemic, I just became really unhappy with my corporate job and I decided to leave and throw everything I could into relaunching Get Fit with Ashley. And so, that brings us to today. I have more classes, health coaching, YouTube workouts, blogs, and I expanded my personal training and really I wanted to be everything to everyone. So I was working with seniors, midlife adults, and children. But in my mid 40s, something happened to me. It
Yeah.
might sound familiar. My period became irregular and I did not know what was going on. I was actually really concerned. And I remember saying to my GYN at the time that, listen, I know I'm not pregnant, but I don't know what could be wrong with me. I was so innocent. And she just laughed and she said, "Oh, you're in perimenopause." And that was it. She literally had her back to me. She was washing her hands when she said it. And she didn't say any more. I didn't know what to say. I was dumbfounded. And honestly, I thought, I'm not old enough for that. This can't be.
I
But
know.
yeah, within a few years, my symptoms really intensified and I was depressed. I couldn't sleep. I was gaining weight. I was experiencing debilitating hot flashes and anxiety. And I ended up going to several doctors, including sleep specialists, psychologists. It wasn't until I found myself a new GYN who actually took time with me and time to explain what was happening and what menopause was all about. And I guess, it was really in that moment that things became clear. I needed to learn more and do more, not only for myself, but for my clients, who many of were going along, alongside me in this transition. So at that point, I decided internet research and books weren't enough. And so I studied to become a certified menopause health coach. And I reorganized my entire business, Get Fit with Ashley, to dedicate to helping women in midlife.
Well, I'm happy you did because I think your
Thanks.
story is the same story for so many women out
Yeah.
there listening. I didn't even know what perimenopause was. And when I think back now that I know about it, when I think back to my mid 30s to early 40s, and I realized some things where I really thought I was going crazy emotionally. Like I didn't know,
Yes.
and I never knew to say like this is how I'm feeling. I just thought I was
Right.
having anxiety. It was
Right.
perimenopause. So yeah, your story
Yeah.
resonates. So, but we're
Yeah.
happy you decided
Thank you.
to shift. So all right, so many women feel like this. They feel like something's off, but they don't realize it's related to menopause. That's our story. We know that. So
Yeah.
why do you think there's still so much confusion or silence around this stage of life?
Well, I think a couple things. First of all, menopause affects your entire body and mind. It's not just about losing your period. It's not just about the end of your reproductive years. The brain fog, weight gain, irritability, vaginal dryness, all of that stuff, it's all caused by menopause and changing hormones. But I think the confusion is mainly due to two things. First, in the past, our medical education for GYNs has focused almost entirely on the reproductive years of
Yeah.
women and has had barely anything to do with menopause. Some GYNs say they received less than a day of education in menopause,
Wow.
even though women can spend up to a third of their life in menopause. So that's a major thing. And then secondly, the 2002 Women's Health Initiative study led to widespread fear about the use of hormone therapy. And
Yes.
so I think, those main two reasons are why so many women feel like they're in the dark about what's happening to them and the help that may be available.
Yeah, no, no, I didn't know that statistic that, when you said that, a third of our life in menopause.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
don't be depressed. This conversation is going in a good place. Don't worry,
Yes,
don't
it's
worry.
going in a good place. Stay with
That's why
us.
Ashley's here. All right.
Yeah.
So, and this I learned just a couple years ago myself, but menopause is defined as just one single day. Can you explain what that means and why the transition actually starts much earlier?
Yes, you are right about the one day, but let me just kind of give it some context.
Yes,
So,
please.
the transition is really, I kind of think of it in the four phases, four distinct phases. So, phase one being your reproductive years. It starts with a young woman getting her first period. The period becomes regular, and those are the years where reproduction is possible. The second phase is called perimenopause, and peri, that prefix means around, so around menopause, and that typically starts in a woman's early 40s and can last 4 to 10 years. Now, it can also start in the late 30s. The first sign that you're in perimenopause is typically changes in your menstrual cycle. So maybe the length is longer or shorter, it's heavier or lighter, the frequency is changing, um, and it's that time where we start to become wondering, like, what is going on with me, where the symptoms may be the greatest. The third phase, and you're right, Jodi, it's one day, and that is menopause. And so menopause technically is defined as the date that you've gone 12 months without a period. And in the US, the average age is 51. But since you have to go a whole 12 months with no cycle, you don't actually know you're on your way to hitting menopause until the day it happens.
Right.
You can literally go 11 months, get a period, and have to start counting all over
I
again.
know I've had friends very upset and depressed. Yeah.
Yes. And then stage four, post menopause, as it's referred to, is the rest of your life. So, but other than your period ending, after that menopause anniversary, your other symptoms don't necessarily stop right there. I mean,
No.
they can last from 4, 8, 10 plus years beyond that. I personally don't really like the term post menopause because I think it can apply to women that I'm done with menopause. I'm over that. And that's not technically true. A woman is in menopause for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's
Now,
not necessarily a bad thing because just remember, everybody, that this is a two-part series.
that's right.
So just pay attention because it's a two-part series, and the next series is all about how you feel about her. So this is good. We're setting the stage. We're educating you right now.
That's right.
We need this education. We need to know. So don't leave here depressed. It's all good. We have an upswing.
No, it's all good.
It is.
I just want to acknowledge one more thing though before we move on, and that is surgical menopause, because that is very
Yes.
real for women. And that happens when a woman loses both of her ovaries, and it can happen any point in that transition that I just talked about. Um, and so when that happens, estrogen production comes to an immediate stop, and it causes an immediate onset of menopause symptoms, and that can be very traumatic and require special care.
Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. Now, I'm learning. So I'm 59, and literally in the last 2 years, I've learned so much about the role estrogen or the lack thereof in my body plays. And I say this because I want people to know, don't be embarrassed. I'm an educated, smart woman. And I didn't realize that I like had no estrogen left in my body, and things started happening the last 2 years. So, you know, that when we wonder like which hormones play the biggest role in this transition, is it estrogen? Are there others?
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of hormones at play here, but most people are familiar with the big three:
Yeah.
estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So, yeah, estrogen is the big one that's talked about, and the impacts are felt most greatly. So, and that's because there are estrogen receptors on every organ in the body, not just the reproductive organs. And so, estrogen supports everything from mood to memory to metabolism, bone density, skin tissue. And so during menopause, perimenopause, when levels are fluctuating wildly, sometimes high, sometimes low, that's what can bring on mood swings, heavy periods, hot flashes, and some of the more aggravating symptoms.
And like vaginal dryness, it can be a result
That's
of the lack
correct.
of the hormones. And I'll
That's
tell you what I
correct.
discovered, and I'm in that post-menopause. I haven't had a period in God knows how many years. But what I didn't realize, and what happened to me, Ashley, is I got a UTI,
Yeah.
a urinary tract infection. And I'm like, what am I, 12 years old? I thought
Right.
UTI, and it wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. It was very eye-opening when, and I finally, I found a female physician who I love. And I finally understood that it's because I of the lack of estrogen
That's right.
in my
Yeah.
body, and that it's very common in women who are in that postmenopausal season of life to get UTIs, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is very common. It's one of the, I hope, hopefully we get to the, talk a little bit more, later about pelvic health, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is very common and it is a symptom of menopause for sure.
Yeah, and
Um,
most listeners know about hot flashes. That's like the
yeah,
most talked about, really talked about. Everyone talks about, oh my God, a hot flash. I'll be in a room full of women, somebody that I'm flashing, and you can see like they're turning red. And I that's what I would say. I would be at a dinner table with my family, be like, flashing, don't touch me. And because I looked good here, but underneath here was soaking wet. But what might be a few other surprising symptoms? I know we mentioned some already, but that women might not immediately connect to menopause.
yeah. Well, so you're right. I mean, depending on what you read, there are lists of, documented symptoms. But what I've read and understand is that there are 34 documented common symptoms of menopause. And some, like you mentioned, like the hot flashes, they're more well known than others, immediate association with menopause. Some others that may be relatively familiar would be brain fog, forgetfulness, irritability, mood swings, sleep troubles, vaginal dryness, weight gain, libido changes. But, with a list of 34, there are plenty on that list that may seem very surprising and are also tied to menopause. And some of these are acne, constipation, high cholesterol, migraines, hair loss, joint pain, itchy skin, itchy ears,
Itchy
panic disorder,
ears?
itchy ears, brittle nails, dry skin. Yeah, yeah.
Brittle nails is part of that too?
Yes, yes.
Oh wow. There's a
There's a
lot.
lot.
There's
There's
a
a
lot.
lot. Yes.
There's a lot. Yeah, so I mean, wow. I didn't know brittle so I actually thought it was like the nail polish. But it could be. It could be that too. It could be.
Well, it could be that, and that's some of these symptoms. I mean, it's really hard to tease out. There's
Yeah.
just we're in midlife, we're experiencing different stresses, and then we have menopause, and so I think it can be hard to tease out what's specifically
Yeah.
menopause, what's specifically midlife. But yeah, there are documented symptoms lists.
So Ashley, as your role as as a menopause health coach, I know that you have a community and you
Yep.
support that community through a lot of education, menopause education. So and we've already talked about, we've already mentioned, a lot of your education. You talk about how nearly every system in your body is affected from cardiovascular to metabolism. I know you just listed a whole bunch, but do you find from your community and the people that you talk to and share this information with certain changes that you see surprising women the most? Like for me, when you said the nail thing, I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, yeah, and I apologize. I don't think I fully answered your question on the hormones because there are
Yeah, you
two
did.
others,
Oh,
and I
yes, you
think
did.
I'll.
And then in addition to maybe what surprises them, like talk a little bit about like long-term effects of menopause too.
Yeah. So, I mean, the estrogen is critical and it has a critical impact on every organ in the body. And I think many women are just not prepared for or are surprised by the level of change that's hitting in them from every direction during
Yeah.
menopause. But I think what might surprise them the most, in addition to some of those wacky symptoms, is what surprised me the most. And that is the very real long term consequences of menopause. So, most of the short term symptoms we talked about earlier, they eventually will even out as we get on in the years post menopause, basically because our bodies are learning to live with low levels of the big three hormones.
Right.
But the long term consequences to brain health, bone health, and heart health that impact women at a much more significant rate than men are very real and worth tuning into. So, like heart disease, for example, we all know that heart disease is the number one cause of death for women in the US, and nearly 1 in 2 women will die from heart disease. Estrogen is responsible for keeping blood vessels flexible and balancing cholesterol. And the risk of stroke actually doubles every decade after menopause.
Wow.
Yeah. Bone health. Here's another one. I mean, estrogen keeps our bones strong and healthy, and women make up 8 out of every 10 Americans with osteoporosis. That's an overwhelming majority. Um,
Uh,
1 in 2 women will have a bone fracture due to osteoporosis after menopause. 1 in 2. And this is an incredible statistic that a woman's risk of breaking a hip is actually equal to her combined risk altogether of breast, uterine, and ovarian cancers.
Stop. And those of you that aren't
Yeah.
watching, you might want to watch the video because I just had like a face like, what? Like,
Yeah.
no, wow. Wow.
Right. Right. Now the last thing I want to mention is like there is conflicting research on this. And it menopause does not directly cause Alzheimer's, but brain health is another, important
Right.
factor that, we're all concerned about. And the drop in estrogen is definitely considered a contributing factor because estrogen does protect the brain, supports cognitive function, which makes women more vulnerable to neuroinflammation and damage.
Yeah.
And, once again, overwhelming majority of Alzheimer's Americans are women.
Listen, we haven't said this enough today during our talk, but the one thing that I have learned in the last 5 years is find a healthcare professional that will listen to you. Like when you said that the doctor said, oh, it's perimenopause with the back towards you. No, no, no,
Yeah,
no. That's not something you just drop on somebody and assume that they know what you're talking about.
right.
Because you've said a few things, Ashley, I just want to share. I this year I found a new internist, my new primary care physician, because I didn't feel
Okay.
seen and heard by the one I had for years. And I personally chose to go to a woman, the first woman doctor I've ever had in my entire life. My daughter, who's 30, is like, you go to men. I'm like, well, that's what you did. You went to men.
Yeah.
I have learned more from her. And one of the things that you mentioned, how it can and in menopause with the lack of estrogen and the hormones is and I don't know exactly what you said, but you mentioned cholesterol.
Yes.
And over the past 3 years, my cholesterol has creeped up a little bit.
Me
And
too.
my
Yes.
yeah, and I learned from so my other doctor was dismissing it as like
Yeah.
nothing. When I switched over and she looked at it, she goes, your cholesterol's been going up over the last 3 years. She goes, it's very common in postmenopausal women
Yeah.
for that
That's
to
right.
happen, and you'll want to keep an eye on it. And I mean, she and I together came up with a plan. She gave me a super low dose of a statin. I mean, super low. And literally 3 months later, I was like, it dropped. She even sent me a message. It dropped so dramatically with this small little 5 milligram dose. She sent me a note in the portal, all cap. Wow, I guess we could just continue that. And it
Yeah.
can't hurt me to be on it, but it was something that was being dismissed that I didn't realize again was a result of because my diet's good. And you could do everything right.
Right.
But when you're losing all these hormones in your body,
Yes.
it's out of our control.
It is out of our control. And I have a similar story too. My doctor referred me to get like a cardiac calcium test, which is
She
a
just
CT
ordered it for
scan.
me. She just ordered it
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. Right. Not covered by insurance, but not expensive, worth
No.
it. Just to give some reassurance if there was any plaque buildup. But yeah, I mean, it's a very real symptom. So thanks for sharing your story. That's powerful.
Well, because I think we would be remiss if we didn't say, obviously, you know, um, being part of a community and following a menopause health coach such as yourself, who's so knowledgeable, you've made it it's just what you're educated in. That's important.
Oh,
And it's also
yes. Thank you.
important to have the right medical professional on your team. You're a team. You're part of you could be part of a team. You're a health coach. You're somebody I follow now. I don't have to call my doctor every 5 minutes, but you need to have a team and we need to advocate for ourselves.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And I
Yeah.
thank you so much for the compliment. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I consider myself. I mean, our GYNs are pressed for time, sometimes, quite often under guidelines by insurance of how much time they can spend with the patient and that kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
having your people, your community, is very important to support women. And I think, there's a lot on social media right now. And I think
Yeah.
women need to be careful of who they're following. Are you following, someone educated who's a coach looking out for your best interest, or are you following an influencer? And, it's
Yeah.
sometimes hard to tell.
It
You
is.
have to look at, what are they trying to sell me something, or are they trying to educate me? And what are their credentials? And so there's so much to filter through. And I think, if I were to give like a third reason, we asked, I gave you two reasons before about what the confusion's all about. That could be a third.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and with more than 34 symptoms that you talked about, more than 34 symptoms, no two of us are the same. We
That's
might,
right.
we might both have hot flashes, but they're going to be different. Like you could have a hot flash during the day. I could wake up with night sweats. Like there's a big difference between a hot flash and a night sweat too. So, no two women experience menopause the same. We can have similar symptoms on the list of 34, but we don't experience it the same way. So how would you, Ashley, what would you say to a woman on how she could begin to figure out her own unique pattern, so to speak?
Well, right. I mean, that's a great question. And I love how you put that, because there are a lot of factors that influence how women experience menopause. And there is no one experience of menopause. I mean, it's affected by your genetics, your socioeconomic status, your culture, your community, all kinds of things like that. But I think, what it comes down to is how we can figure out our own pattern. Is my best advice is to journal and track your symptoms.
I like that.
So like in my community, I created a symptom tracker for my clients. It contains all 34 of these symptoms plus space to write in more, because I don't claim that list cannot get longer. But keeping
We women, we're overachievers, Ashley. We'll find more. Go ahead.
yes, we'll find more. We'll get that up to 37. Yeah. But yeah, so keeping a simple check sheet like this can really help women understand patterns and severity, and ultimately lead to more productive conversations about their treatment with their healthcare provider. So doing your own research, bringing your own questions, bringing your symptom tracker.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned before, like a lot of times, if you're going to a typical GYN appointment, they may only have 10 or 15 minutes for you. And that's just not enough time to talk about menopause. So the more prepared you are, the more likely you'll have a meaningful appointment.
It is a great tip. It is a great tip. Definitely. And your whoever that physician is, whoever your medical provider is going to really appreciate you coming in with that because they want to help you.
For
They,
sure.
they do. So I love that. Journal, keep a symptom tracker, write your questions down. We have there's no lack of note taking available to us. We have notes on our
Right.
phone. We can text. I text myself things all the time. So
Yeah, so do
great
I.
tip. Great tip. All right. So as we
Good.
get to wrap this part one up,
Yeah.
for the one woman, for that woman listening today who is feeling overwhelmed right now, she's just feeling overwhelmed. What's one thing, Ashley, that you would want her to remember and take away from this conversation?
Um, I want women to know that what they're feeling is real and it's not all in your head.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's support out here and it's waiting for you. And like you said, you don't take no for an answer. Don't tolerate being brushed off or dismissed or minimized. If your healthcare provider doesn't understand or dismisses you, then you need to find a new one. There's absolutely no reason to suffer alone.
yeah. Oh, I love it. Great advice. Great advice. Okay, two last things. Number one, you have a resource for our listeners. We're going to have a link to this resource in our show notes. Tell everybody what the resource is.
Yes, yes. If you go to my website, getfitwithashley.com, you will be able to get your free 5 ways to feel your best in midlife PDF. And it is a great summary of the 5 biggest complaints that we and women going through the menopause transition have, and specific actions you can take to feel better.
Oh, I love that. And you just click the link in our show notes below. And then, of course, nobody gets out of Beyond Empty Nest without giving our audience a dare. So what is the dare here for our part one? Because you're going to have to come up with the dare for part two. You're not getting off that easy. All right.
Well, luckily, I know you, and I know you love a good dare. So, yeah. So my dare here for part one is to have one honest conversation about what you're going through with perimenopause or menopause. Have that conversation with a trusted friend, family member, or partner, because breaking the silence is validation. It's acceptance, and it's the first step in starting a path forward to find support. And the beautiful thing about honest conversations is that they may also allow your trusted friend or partner to share their feelings as well. So it can be a beautiful thing.
Yes, I love that dare. I have to just share this with you. So yes, share it with exactly that dare. And I'm going to share with you, like my girlfriends, like I have a group of girlfriends, we get together for girls' night out every so often. And our conversations, when I realized going back to my UTI, I said, anybody else having UTIs? Oh yeah, well I have estrogen cream. Yeah, I have the estrogen patch. I'm like, so our conversations are cream or patch. But I'm like, wait a minute, there's an
Yeah,
estrogen patch. And that led to an entire conversation that actually helped give me some questions to go to my primary caregiver. So I make a joke
exactly.
about it, like our questions are
Yeah,
now, okay, patch or cream. But the truth is, it really led to, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to ask that. And they're like,
that's
well, why?
right.
And that's how I learned about the calcium score. Oh, I can ask if that's necessary for me to get. And so when you have when you embark on the dare, when you take action on Ashley's dare, you will open your eyes to questions that you never even knew to ask. So it's a great dare. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you,
good,
Ashley.
good.
All right, listen up, everybody. This is just part one. Part one was all about what's really happening to me here. And now you have an understanding. Grab the resource, but tune in next week. Mark it on your calendar. Next week, we're coming back with part two, and it's all about how to feel better. So I'll see you next week for part two. And as I always say, dare on.
Wow, what a great conversation. I hope this episode helped you feel a little more informed, a little more seen, and a lot more empowered about what's really happening in your body during this stage of life. Huge, huge thank you goes out to Jodi Silverman for having me on her podcast, Beyond Empty Nest, and for opening up this important dialogue about menopause. Don't forget to check out all the amazing things she's doing at jodisilverman.com, and I'm going to have her info linked in the show notes. Now, this is just part one, so be sure to tune in to part two of The Empowered Menopause, where Jodi and I dive into how to feel better with real actionable ways to manage symptoms and support your body through this transition. Thank you for listening to StrongHER Voices. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe and leave a quick review. It really helps other women find the show, and it means so much to me personally. If you're ready to go deeper, come join our community at getfitwithashley.com/stronger, where you'll find connection, accountability, expert coaching, and the support you deserve. Don't forget to use code VOICES for $25 off your membership. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider for guidance that's right for you. Until next time, remember, this isn't a pause, it's power.